Good morning, good morning, good morning. Coach Tina here, and it is time for Monday morning motivation. I hope that you are so excited about this week, and I have a big question for you. Good morning, Margaret. So happy to have you on. The question is, what are you planning for this week? And as you answer that question, which I have it to put up, so let me do that. As you're thinking about what you have planned for this week, is it one or two things you throw out there, or one big thing? Like last week, I was fully involved in the Tony Robbins Business Mastery, so that kept me extremely busy. So I couldn't have fit in anything if I wanted to. Or do you have it RPM'd out, which is literally the way that you should be doing things? And we're going to talk about that today. And Margaret is saying that this week she has surgery planned, which is very similar to an immersive Tony Robbins event in that you got to devote all you can to it, and you don't know if you're going to have any free time or not, right? I hear you. I hear you. Well, when we talk about planning in the RPM system, which we are outcome obsessed, not giving up on that. This is 1 month that I have been using the new RPM planner from Tony Robbins. But it's, even though like I didn't jump on my computer and use the software this week, I was still thinking in terms of RPM. I use Tony AI a lot, which is part of that package. But the whole time that we were talking, it was outcome focused. It was all about what are these actions that I have to do and how can I apply them? How can I put them, chunk them together? Because we had a lot to do. We did a team competition, and each day was packed. We had maybe 20-minute breaks for the most part, and we had to get together. We ended up, the competition is usually 5 or 6 people, and we came on strong. We had a whole bunch of people. The first day we had t-shirts, and it was crazy. We had 195 people join our team, and then we had chaos because we were trying to manage 195 people. We had a room of about 1,100, I think is what they decided. And so we had quite a number of the people on our team, which the actual team was to help out the Marisi organization, which was started by a gentleman. His name is Om, in India, to help girls specifically, but children that have been sex trafficked. And he basically created a technology and a software that takes down the networks for these trafficking areas all around the world. And so we devoted our time to them. We created shirts. We had all this fun thing. Our logo was Shine. And we had these rings that we passed out to everybody that blinked and lit up the room when it was dark. It was really fun. And we asked everybody to shine their light and help the organization, so the Marisi organization. We collected over the course of the 5 days. We had an auction. We sold t-shirts, gave the rings out, and that was $96,000 is what we collected, which was absolutely incredible. But the it's also the organization that Tony talks about in Business Mastery. So as a result, when Tony did his event, he put 4 songs up, and it was how much money could we collect in 4 songs for Marisi, and we collected 1.8 million in 4 songs, less than 20 minutes. And that's like our money's in addition to that. It was crazy to think about. Absolutely crazy to think that I was in a room full of people that could donate that much. Wow. That was how it felt. yeah, it was incredible. Tony hasn't had an event that raised that much. And so we're going to say that maybe our fundraiser all week helped raise awareness. Maybe maybe it was just synergistic, right? Like we were a little bit worried that we would distract from Tony's event. Totally didn't happen. So we had a great time. Had a great time. But it is a new week, and it's time to dig into how you would plan using the rapid planning method, Tony's system that has worked for him all of this time, to plan it out on a weekly basis. Because remember, we talked about last week the big picture. You always want to be looking at, what is that ultimate vision? What is the thing you want most in your life? Then you break it into your 1 year. You have your 1 year. You're going to break that further into quarterly goals, and that's going to give you your 90 days. With your 90 days, you're going to be able to look at your monthly, your weekly, and your daily. I'm thinking on what day it is today. So I believe we have a weekend before Memorial Day, but let's see. Yes, this coming weekend would be a fantastic weekend for us to do. No, it's going to be September that we do the quarterly. But I would be happy to get with those of you that are still struggling to get your September benchmarks set up so that we have September benchmark working, and then we'll do October, November, December in our quarterlies. But you need to be looking at that bigger picture and then narrow it down to the monthly. Like, what do I have going on? And when we say monthly, we're looking at this month, but we're also looking at what's coming in the next month and the month after that, because you've got to keep that big view in mind. And then we come into our weeklies, and that's what we're going to work on today. Because when you know what's coming in your month, you then know what you need to do each week. And spoiler alert here, it's the same process. That's what's really cool about RPM. So when you're doing RPM, we use the 5-step process, and we do it on the weekly, just like we did it already. Setting up an RPM block is the same, whether it is daily. Sorry, let me put me into a different thing there. Daily, weekly, monthly, whatever. It's the same process, and those are the 5 steps of RPM. Do you remember? It's capture, it's create the RPM, then we want to commit and schedule it, complete and achieve, and celebrate. Okay, and so I'm just going to lead you through this quickly this morning so that we can make sure that we are not going to have a week that's full of stress, that's full of just doing whatever comes your way. If at the end of the week you were frustrated and overwhelmed, that's a pretty good sign that you didn't plan your week, or you didn't use the time effectively in your week because you didn't really know what you needed to get done. But at the end of the week, you felt this, I have so much to do. That's an example of you're not working a plan. You're just living. And when you just live, that's beautiful. However, there has to be a balance between living the life you love and doing the things that will get you to a lifetime that you love. And so that's why it's important to do processes like these that will support you and grow you in the way that you want. So we're going to look at the first step, which is to capture. What this means is you're going to make a list, grab a piece of paper and write down all of the things that you need to do this week that are top of mind. Now, hopefully you've already looked at your monthly and so on, but when you are capturing, it can be anything. And the good thing about capturing is as you evaluate your list at the end, with the chunking part, you may find things that you're like, okay, this is going to be better next week. Or I have more free time on Thursday this week, so that's the day that I'm going to do this bundle of things. That's what the chunking is about. Sorry, I have been operating on very little sleep. So I normally operate on 6 hours, which is great. But last night we didn't go to bed till after 1. I was up at 7 to get ready for this. Eastern time. I'm in your time zone, Margaret. And then the other days, there were days I did not go to bed till 3:30 in the morning, which is very unusual for me. And then we woke up at 7, 8 o'clock. So I am feeling the long-term effect of very limited sleep. So you want to capture and chunk all of the things that you need to do. So if you're watching this video on a replay, let us know for sure. Put hashtag replay. And then what you want to do is pause the video and make your list. Everything goes onto the list. This is kitchen sink planning time. So everything goes down, and since I use the kitchen sink analogy, now we're going to clean the dishes. We're going to take the glasses and put them on to the side, and the plates to the side, and the silverware, and then whatever order you like to do them in, that's going to become your chunking, right? Like things are going to go in the containers of your dishwasher, or how you like to do it by hand, however that is. And you're going to chunk those together, the things that make sense, the things that are all done on your computer, or the things that are done when you're out running errands. All of that becomes part of your capturing and chunking process. And if you remember, we did, what is the outcome that I'm looking for? So when you think about your week, you might have one big thing that you know that you have to get done. So what's the outcome for that one big thing? And then what is the reason you're doing it? Especially if it's already pre-planned, make sure it's in alignment with your 90-day and your monthly and your year-long goals. Because if it's not, why are you doing it? That's what RPM has you question, is what's the point? So maybe you have your 2 to-dos, right? We talked about this later, your desired outcomes, the DOs. And every day you can pick 2 things that are musts, that you absolutely have to do no matter what, and get those figured out. Even though they're to-dos or our outcome, then what we want to do is we want to make an RPM around that. It might be that the must has 3 actions you have to take, and that's what you're going to get done. And then maybe there's 3 or 4 progress points that you know you need to be making. Maybe you've got I'm trying to think of a project. Maybe you're making some jewelry, and you want to have you have to order some new supplies. So that's on your list. That's an action. It doesn't get you the bracelets made, right? It just is a piece of it. So you're going to want to list the progress, because if you order the supplies, of course, you're going to be able to make the bracelets later. So it's a piece of the puzzle. And then maybe you've got some routines that you're trying to work on, and those become part of the actions you need to take in order to meet your routine as well. So you chunk all of those together, and then you want to create that block that we talked about. You've got your outcome. You're thinking about the purpose. For every outcome, you have an individual purpose. There's not just one purpose for your life. We are multi-purpose people. And so you're going to attach, and when we talk purpose, we're talking emotion behind the outcome, why it is important to you. When you have your outcome and you're feeling pumped about what it is you got to do, remember how we had roles? You can pick a role for your event, your thing that you have to do, and your outcome can have its own role, and that can be underneath the category. You can stack and multi-layer all of this stuff. It's really incredible. And so then, and only then, do you write down some actions. Remember, there's a thing that Tony calls the tyranny of how, which is when we are totally focused on the things that we have to do. We have to figure out how. We got to find the money, all that stuff. But what Tony wants us to focus on is why. When we know what we want and we know why we want it, we are going to naturally take the steps to what we need to do. And so that's part of that RPM block. You've listed your circle in the outcome. You've listed your purpose on the right-hand side, and on the left-hand side are all of those actions. And you've already written them because you're just moving them over from your capture. So hopefully that makes sense. Again, if you're watching on the replay, you can pause this and start planning out your RPM blocks. Remember, you can use something like an index card as a simple way to get them written down for the day. On my my number 2 DOs, I use both sides of an index card and write those down and kind of carry that with me so that I am staying on track with my dailies. Okay, the next part, after creating our plan, the part where we made our RPMs, is committing and scheduling. This is super important on the weekly basis, because if you think you're just going to get to it on Monday, let's say, it won't happen. It won't happen in the way that you're planning it because you haven't dedicated the time for it. So what you want to do is look ahead at your week and find your chunks. After you put the big things like the doctor's appointments, the meetings you have to have, maybe you're in a class, whatever that is, you put those in place. And then you're going to block out time to do your 2 DOs, right? Those are the ones that you must get to, so they have priority. And once you chunk it out, which you should conceivably do very first thing in the morning, because the things that keep showing up on our list tend to be things that are hard for us to do. So if we are doing them on first thing in the morning, there's less excuse to put in there. Time doesn't get away from you as much. Other people's priorities don't come and slam you. And so try to address them right after your morning routine is probably the best way to handle that. All right. So what it means to commit is you're saying it's done. I can, I will, I must. It's done. Okay. It's a wonderful chant to put in you. My Tony coach has me working on what's known as a triad. I've done triad work before, but you talk about the physiology. You talk about what you're focusing on and what your language is. And you create a physiology around the goal that you're putting in the middle of that triangle. And when you do that, you are saying to yourself, I am committed to that outcome. I'm committed to being that person that does what they say they're going to do. And then from that state of commitment, you schedule it and you get it done, right? That's the key. We have to take the actions that change our life. So once you have scheduled them, spoiler alert, do the work. Complete the action items that are important. Now, not every action item needs to get done to get the outcome that you're looking for. So you have to prioritize them. We talked about setting up the timing on them. How long is each action estimated to take? And then you total those up. And that gives you an idea of how much time, if you only worked on the things that you have on your capture list and that you've transferred into RPM blocks, if you only did those things, how much time will it take from your day, your week, your month, conceivably? And while you're doing that, that's when you're looking at your day and you're thinking, okay, we have 24 hours in a day. If 8 of those hours are spent sleeping, which I wish I was getting 8 hours of sleep these days, or you're spending maybe 8 hours working, so you're left with 8 hours in a day. What are you doing with those 8 hours? If you've only planned out an hour and you can't get to it, then there's some disconnect in your time that's available. And so you just need to evaluate it. I heard a great quote this week about measurements from the amazing Keith Cunningham. He teaches accounting in the Tony World, a great class on accounting. It's just mind-blowing how good he is at explaining something that I didn't enjoy when I was in college. But when he talked about accounting, he said, if you step on a scale and you don't like the number on the scale, you don't take out a sledgehammer and start beating up the scale and like, everything's wrong because of you, scale. That isn't how that works. And so when we're looking at what we're doing, we have to make sure we're not just angry at the scale, but that we're aware of what's happening, and then we take measurements to change the weight. And we keep the scale there so that we can go back and remeasure and see how we're doing. So when we complete an item or don't complete an item, we're getting information. And from that place, we can make better decisions. So that's the complete part. And achieving it is the sister, right? Complete and achieve, they go very, very closely together. Twin sister, let's call it. And we get what's done, what's important, and what matters to us. Oh, sorry. And I do want to say, let's say that you commit to something and then you have an emergency or something that was totally unexpected needs to take priority. The beauty of already having your week planned is that you can take that chunk of time that you had devoted. You know it was going to take 2 hours because you've done the work behind how much does each of my actions take. You already have them starred, the ones that are critical. So you know that if time gets out of hand, you only could do those a couple ones and get it done. But you also are able to take that entire block of time and look into the future and plan that timing in the next couple of days. So by committing to it, by saying, I am going to get this done, then you get resourceful and you find a way, even if time gets away from you, God forbid, right? And when all of this is said and done, we get to do my favorite thing, which I'm sure you know by now, is to celebrate success. To celebrate the lessons you've learned if it's not necessarily you feeling like you have the success you're looking for. But by celebrating even the smallest of successes, you will have such a bonus at the end. In fact, Tony likes to talk about 2 millimeter shifts. That all we need to do is create 2 millimeter shifts in our life. A millimeter is one of the smallest units of measurement. And so just 2 of those, 2 small shifts in whatever it is you're already doing can change everything. It might be just making a commitment to a habit and drinking just a little bit more water every day. That could be a 2 millimeter shift. And by doing that, you shift your thinking. You are someone who does what they say they're going to do. You shift your activity because now you're making sure you always have a glass of water by you. You shift your focus to where, you're not maybe drinking hardcore coffee and things that pull out liquid from your body because you realize it takes a lot to get it in the body. Why would you then counterbalance it with something that's detrimental to the system? So as you keep all of the goodness in your mind about what needs to happen to have the week that you want. Oh my goodness. I'm sorry. I wonder if there's a way in AI to pull out when I yawn in the feed. It's a great choice for what to do with AI. But what you want to do is really get yourself to where weekly planning becomes a regular focus, something you do over the weekend to get started on the week that's coming up. Give yourself no more than an hour, but definitely schedule your time so that it is possible to do what you need to do. So we've reached the end of the week and we celebrate. We reschedule, capture everything, put it into RPM blocks, commit to it, schedule it, complete it, achieve it, and celebrate. It is a ongoing cycle, and you know that that will get you rolling forward. The momentum will build, and hopefully that's landing really nicely for you. This week, the things that are on my weekly plan, the things that are on my daily plan today, is to publish the landing page for the upcoming events that we are having in our community. It is the Greatness Show on Worth. Unlike my normal 3-day master classes, this is going to be an immersive event, similar, but nowhere near as intense as the Tony Robbins events that I like to do. But this will be an all-day event starting at 10 a.m. on Friday morning the 6th, running till about 4 or 5 in the afternoon, and then continuing all day on Saturday the 7th, as well as it'll be more like half day, maybe 12, starting at 12, going to 4:30, 5 o'clock on the 8th. So I'm super excited about bringing you the concept for the content that we will be having this coming year. We will be leaning heavily on the RPM process because of its effectiveness, but we will also be covering our 7F framework, bringing in some of what I have adopted as strategic transformation principles that I have directly learned from Tony Robbins. For those of you with businesses, we have amazing opportunities to take you forward in the business growth sector, and you're going to really enjoy that. In fact, if you haven't been approached or have signed up yet to be in the business directory, this is for those of you that have an idea. Maybe you haven't moved forward on it yet, but you know that you want to be a hairstylist one day, or you want to own a bakery, or whatever it is that you have in your mind. That would be a business focus. If you have a business already, then you would just be telling us about your business, where you're located, what you do, online ways to contact you, expanding the circle in our community with this business directory, which will live in the Learn, Grow, Share Club as something that new members, when they come in, will be able to have access to and find out about the different types of things we have available in our community. All right. So the Greatness Show on Worth. Put hashtag show in the comments below, and we will get you the link to sign up later today, because my focus is going to be very strong in the area of the last minute details on the Greatness Show on Worth. And then we will be having it in less than 2 weeks. We will be geared up and ready to have our Greatness Show. I hope you have a truly blessed rest of today, rest of this week, and that we are hitting the end of the month of August with the strength and vigor and energy that you need to meet the goals, because you matter. You are designed for greatness and a purpose, and I want you to live to your highest potential. Have a really blessed week, and I'll talk to you soon.